The summer heat was almost unbearable that Tuesday afternoon. 17-year-old Rosa wiped the sweat from her forehead as she rushed down Cedar Street, her old backpack bouncing against her shoulders. She was already 10 minutes late for her shift at Pete's Diner, and Mr. Pete didn't like it when his staff showed up late. Even if it was just by a few minutes, her sneakers, held together with duct tape on one side, slapped against the hot pavement. Rosa had been meaning to buy new ones for months, but every time she saved up a little money, something else came up. Last month it was the electricity bill. The month before that, her mom needed medicine. That's just how life was for them, and Rosa had learned to accept it. She checked her phone quickly. Still 7 minutes to get there. If she ran, she might make it. But just as she was about to break into a sprint, something caught her eye at the corner of Main and Cedar. An old man stood at the crosswalk, his hand gripping a wooden cane that looked almost as old as he was. He wore simple clothes, faded blue overalls and a checkered shirt that had seen better days. His white hair stuck out from under a worn baseball cap, and he was leaning forward slightly, squinting at the traffic light like he couldn't quite make out when it changed. The light turned green, and the walking signal blinked on, but the old man didn't move. He just stood there, shifting his weight from one foot to the other, his cane wobbling slightly. Rosa knew she was late. She knew Mr. Pete would probably dock her pay if she didn't get there soon, but she also knew what it was like to struggle, to need help and not have anyone notice. Her mom had trouble walking sometimes too, especially on bad days when her arthritis flared up. Without thinking twice, Rosa changed direction and walked up to the old man. "Excuse me, sir," she said gently, trying not to startle him. "Would you like some help getting across?" The old man turned to look at her, and his weathered face broke into the kindest smile Rosa had seen in a long time. His eyes, though surrounded by wrinkles, were bright and full of warmth. "Oh, would you?" he said, his voice a bit shaky. "These old legs don't work like they used to, and this traffic moves so fast these days. I swear cars didn't go this quick when I was your age." Rosa smiled and offered her arm. The old man took it gratefully, his grip surprisingly gentle despite his trembling hands. She noticed his fingers were calloused and stained with dirt, the hands of someone who had worked hard his whole life. "Don't worry, we'll take it slow," Rosa said as the light changed again. No rush. They started across the street together. The old man moved carefully, one small step at a time, his cane tapping against the asphalt with each movement. Rosa matched his pace perfectly, never pulling ahead or showing any sign of impatience, even though in the back of her mind she was calculating how late she'd be now. "You're very kind to help an old fool like me," the man said as they reached the halfway point. "Most young people these days are always in such a hurry. They rush right past without even seeing us old folks." "My mom always taught me to help people when I can," Rosa replied. "Besides, everyone needs a hand sometimes, right?" The old man chuckled softly. "Your mother raised you right. What's your name, young lady?" "Rosa, sir." "Rosa Martinez." "Well, Rosa Martinez, I'm Henry Cooper, and I'm mighty grateful to you." They made it to the other side of the street, and Rosa made sure Henry was steady on his feet before letting go of his arm. She checked her phone again. 15 minutes late now. Mr. Pete was definitely going to be upset. "Thank you so much, Rosa," Henry said, reaching into his pocket. "Here, let me give you something for your trouble." "Oh no, sir, please," Rosa said quickly, holding up her hands. "I don't want any money. I was just happy to help." Henry paused, his hand still in his pocket, and looked at her with those kind eyes. "You sure? Not even a little something?" Rosa shook her head. "Really, it's okay. I just hoped someone would do the same for my mom if she needed help." Something shifted in Henry's expression then. He looked at Rosa for a long moment as if he was studying her, trying to understand something. Then he smiled again and nodded slowly. "You're a good girl, Rosa. A real good girl. Where are you headed in such a hurry, if you don't mind me asking?" "I work at Pete's Diner, just 2 blocks down. I'm actually pretty late now," Rosa admitted, glancing at her phone again. "Pete's Diner. I know that place. Been around for years. You better get going then. Don't want you getting in trouble on my account." "It's okay, really. Are you going to be all right from here?" Henry nodded and patted his cane. "Oh, I'll be just fine. I'm tougher than I look. You go on now." "And Rosa, thank you again. You've got a good heart." Rosa smiled and started to hurry away, but Henry called after her. "Rosa, one more thing. Do you work there every day?" "Tuesday through Saturday, sir." 4 to 9, Rosa called back. Henry nodded as if filing that information away somewhere important. You have a good day now, Rosa Martinez. You too, Mr. Cooper. Rosa ran the rest of the way to the diner, her backpack bouncing wildly. She burst through the door at 4:20, completely out of breath. Mr. Pete stood behind the counter, his arms crossed, his expression annoyed. You're late. Rosa, he said flatly. I know, Mr. Pete, I'm so sorry. I was helping someone cross the street and I don't want to hear excuses. This is the third time this month, I know, but clock in and get to work. We'll talk about this later. Rosa's heart sank. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Between working here and her morning job at the grocery store, she barely made enough to help her mom with the bills. But what was she supposed to do? Just walk past someone who needed help? She tied her apron on and got to work, taking orders, refilling coffee cups and clearing tables. The diner was busy, as it always was on Tuesday afternoons. The regular customers came in, the ones who ordered the same thing every week. Mrs. Patterson with her tuna melt, Officer Davidson with his burger and fries, the college students who took up the corner booth for hours, ordering nothing but coffee. Rosa moved through her shift on autopilot, her mind wandering back to the old man, Henry Cooper. There was something about him that stuck with her. Maybe it was the way he smiled or the way he looked at her when she refused his money, like he was surprised, like kindness was something he hadn't expected to find. The dinner rush came and went. Rosa's feet ached in her taped-up sneakers and her stomach growled loudly. She'd snuck a few French fries when Mr. Pete wasn't looking, but that was all she'd eaten since breakfast. At 7:30, during a brief lull, Mr. Pete called her over to the counter. Rosa's stomach tightened. Here it comes, she thought. He's going to fire me. Rosa, about earlier, Mr. Pete began, and Rosa braced herself. I was too harsh. You're a good worker, and you're hardly ever late. I was just having a bad day. Don't worry about it, Rosa blinked in surprise. Really? Really? Just try to be on time, okay? I know you've got a lot going on. Relief washed over Rosa like cool water. Thank you, Mr. Pete, I promise I'll do better. He nodded and went back to the kitchen, and Rosa felt like she could breathe again. She finished her shift without incident, said goodbye to the evening cook, and stepped out into the warm night air. The walk home took 30 minutes. Rosa lived with her mom in a small apartment on the edge of town, in a building that had seen better days. The paint was peeling, the stairs creaked, and sometimes the hot water didn't work. But it was home, and it was theirs. She climbed the 3 flights of stairs and unlocked the apartment door quietly, just in case her mom was already asleep. But the light was on in the living room, and her mom sat in her favorite chair, a book in her lap. Hi, Mija, her mom said, looking up with a tired smile. How was work? It was okay, Rosa said, dropping her backpack by the door. Sorry I'm late. How are you feeling? Oh, you know, the same. My knee's been bothering me, but nothing I can't handle. Rosa noticed the way her mom shifted in the chair, trying to get comfortable. The arthritis was getting worse, she could tell. But there was nothing they could do about it. The medicine was expensive, and insurance only covered so much. I'll make us some dinner, Rosa said, heading to the tiny kitchen. There's some rice and beans in the fridge. I made them this afternoon. Rosa heated up the food and brought 2 plates to the living room. They ate together, her mom telling her about the book she was reading. Rosa listening and nodding. Too tired to say much. After dinner, Rosa helped her mom to bed, making sure she had her medicine and a glass of water on the nightstand. Then she retreated to her own small room, barely big enough for a bed and a dresser. She sat on her bed and pulled out her homework. Senior year had started just 2 weeks ago, and already she was behind. Between working 2 jobs and taking care of her mom, there wasn't much time for studying. But Rosa was determined to graduate. She wanted to go to community college, maybe study nursing or teaching, something that would help her get a better job, make a better life for her and her mom. As she worked through her math problems, her mind drifted back to Henry Cooper. She wondered where he lived, if he had family to take care of him. He seemed like such a sweet old man. She hoped he'd made it home safely. Rosa finished her homework around midnight and finally crawled into bed, exhausted. Tomorrow would be another long day. Up at 5 for her shift at the grocery store, then school, then the diner again. The same routine day after day, but as she drifted off to sleep, Rosa felt good about one thing. She'd helped someone today. In a world that often felt cold and uncaring, she'd made a small difference. And that had to count for something, didn't it? She didn't know it yet, but that simple act of kindness, those few minutes helping an old man cross a busy street, was about to change her life in ways she couldn't possibly imagine. 3 days had passed since Rosa helped the old man cross the street, and she'd almost forgotten about it. Life had a way of moving forward whether you were ready or not. Thursday morning came too early, as it always did. The alarm on her phone buzzed at 5 in the morning, and Rosa dragged herself out of bed. Still exhausted from the night before, she got dressed quietly, not wanting to wake her mom, and grabbed a granola bar from the kitchen. It wasn't much of a breakfast, but it would have to do until her lunch break. The walk to Morrison's grocery store took 15 minutes, and Rosa used that time to fully wake up, breathing in the cool morning air. The store was already bustling with activity when she arrived. Mr. Morrison liked to open early to catch the people who shopped before work. Rosa clocked in and headed straight to her station at the checkout counter. "Morning, Rosa," called out Betty, one of the older cashiers who'd worked there for 20 years. "You look tired, honey." "Morning, Betty. Yeah, didn't sleep much. Had a lot of homework." Betty shook her head sympathetically. "You work too hard, sweetheart. You're still just a kid. You should be out having fun, not working 2 jobs." Rosa smiled weakly. Bills don't pay themselves, unfortunately. The morning shift passed in a blur of beeping scanners and tired customers. Rosa's feet already hurt by the time her break came at 8:30. She sat in the small break room, eating a sandwich she'd packed the night before, when Mr. Morrison poked his head in. "Rosa, someone's asking for you out front," he said, looking a bit confused. Rosa's heart jumped. Had something happened to her mom? "Who is it?" "Some old farmer. Says his name is Henry Cooper. You know him?" Rosa's confusion matched Mr. Morrison's. I helped him cross the street a few days ago. That's all?" "Well, he seems real eager to talk to you. Says it's important." Rosa followed Mr. Morrison back to the front of the store, and sure enough, there was Henry Cooper, standing near the entrance with his cane, wearing the same faded overalls and checkered shirt. When he saw Rosa, his weathered face lit up with that warm smile she remembered. "Rosa, there you are. I hope I'm not bothering you at work." "Mr. Cooper, hi. Is everything okay? How did you know I worked here?" Henry chuckled. "Small town, my dear. Asked around a bit. I wanted to talk to you about something. When's your break over?" Rosa glanced at the clock. "I've got about 10 more minutes. Mind if an old man buys you a coffee?" "There's a place right across the street." Rosa hesitated. This was strange. Why would he track her down just to buy her coffee? But there was something genuine in his eyes, nothing threatening or weird. "Just kindness, sure, I guess. Let me just tell Mr. Morrison." 10 minutes later, Rosa sat across from Henry in a small coffee shop, a cup of hot chocolate in front of her. She didn't really like coffee, and Henry had noticed when she hesitated at the counter. "So," Henry began, wrapping his hands around his own coffee cup, "I've been thinking about you these past few days. About what you did for me." "It really wasn't a big deal, Mr. Cooper. Anyone would have done the same." Henry shook his head slowly. "No, Rosa, that's where you're wrong. I stood at that corner for nearly 10 minutes before you showed up. Dozens of people walked past me. Young people, old people, people in business suits and people in jeans. Not one of them stopped. Not one of them even looked at me. Except you." Rosa didn't know what to say to that. It made her sad to think about. "And then," Henry continued, "when I tried to give you money, you refused. You wouldn't take a single dollar. Do you know how rare that is? Most people would have grabbed that money without a second thought. I didn't help you for money. I helped you because you needed help." Henry studied her face for a long moment. "Tell me about yourself, Rosa. What's your life like?" It was a personal question, maybe too personal for someone she barely knew, but something about Henry made Rosa feel comfortable. So she told him. She told him about her mom's arthritis, about working 2 jobs to help pay the bills, about trying to keep her grades up so she could maybe go to community college someday. She told him about their small apartment, about eating rice and beans most nights, about her sneakers held together with tape. Henry listened to every word, never interrupting, his eyes full of something Rosa couldn't quite name. Understanding, maybe, or sympathy. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. "Your father?" he asked gently. "He left when I was 5. We haven't heard from him since. Henry nodded slowly. And despite all of this, despite working yourself to the bone at 17 years old, you still stopped to help an old stranger cross the street. Rosa shrugged. My mom always said that no matter how hard things get, you never lose your humanity. You never stop being kind. Your mother sounds like a wise woman. She is. She's the best person I know. Henry took a sip of his coffee, then set the cup down carefully. Rosa, I want to tell you something. Something I don't tell many people. You see these clothes I'm wearing? This old cap, these overalls? People look at me and see a poor old farmer. And that's exactly what I want them to see. Rosa frowned, confused. I don't understand. I own land, Rosa. Quite a bit of land, actually. About 1,500 acres just outside of town. Cooper Farms, maybe you've heard of it? Rosa's eyes widened. Cooper Farms? Everyone in town had heard of Cooper Farms. It was one of the largest farming operations in the entire county. They supplied produce to grocery stores across 3 states. People said whoever owned it was a millionaire several times over. That's you? Henry nodded. Been in my family for 4 generations. I inherited it from my father. He got it from his father, and so on. I'm not telling you this to brag, Rosa. I'm telling you because I want you to understand something. I wear these old clothes and drive an old truck because I learned a long time ago that money changes how people treat you. When people know you have money, they want something from you. They're nice to you because they hope to get something in return. But I didn't know, Rosa said softly. Exactly. You didn't know and you helped me anyway. You helped me because I was a human being who needed help, not because you thought you'd get something out of it. That's real kindness, Rosa. That's real character. And it's rarer than you might think. Rosa sat back in her chair trying to process this information. Henry Cooper, the old man she'd helped cross the street, was actually one of the wealthiest people in town. It seemed impossible. I still don't understand why you're telling me this, she said. Henry leaned forward, his expression serious. Because I want to help you, Rosa, the way you helped me. Mr. Cooper, I really don't need. Please let me finish. I'm an old man, Rosa. I'm 78 years old. I've got no children, no close family to speak of. My wife died 15 years ago and we never had kids. I've spent my whole life building that farm, making it successful, and for what? So I can die alone and leave it all to some distant cousins I've never even met? His voice cracked slightly and Rosa saw real emotion in his eyes. I've been thinking a lot about legacy lately, Henry continued, about what I'll leave behind when I'm gone. And then I met you. A girl who works 2 jobs, takes care of her sick mother, goes to school and still finds time to help a stranger. That's the kind of person who deserves a chance. That's the kind of person I want to help. Mr. Cooper, I appreciate it, I really do, but I can't take your money. It wouldn't be right. I'm not offering you money, Henry said, smiling. Well, not directly anyway. I'm offering you a job, Rosa blinked. A job? At the farm. I need someone to help me with the administrative side of things. Answering phones, organizing paperwork, keeping track of orders. Nothing too complicated, and I'll teach you everything you need to know. The pay would be $15 an hour, and you'd work 20 hours a week. Flexible schedule so you can work around your school. Rosa did the math quickly in her head. $15 an hour, 20 hours a week. That was $300 a week. $1,200 a month. That was more than she made at both her current jobs combined. Mr. Cooper, that's too generous. Why would you? Because I can, Rosa, because I want to. Because helping you feels like the right thing to do. Just like helping me was the right thing for you to do. What do you say? Rosa's mind raced. This could change everything. With that kind of money, they could pay off their medical bills. They could fix the car that had been sitting broken in the parking lot for 6 months. Her mom could get the physical therapy she needed. Rosa could actually save money for college. But it felt too good to be true. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. I don't know what to say, Rosa admitted. Say yes, Henry said simply. Come work for me. Let me help you the way you helped me. No strings attached. If you don't like the job, you can quit any time. But give it a try. What do you have to lose? Rosa thought about her mom, struggling to get out of her chair every morning. She thought about the stack of unpaid bills on their kitchen table. She thought about her taped-up sneakers and the granola bar she ate for breakfast because they couldn't afford anything else. Okay, she said quietly. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Thank you so much. Henry's smile grew wider. Don't thank me yet. You haven't seen how much paperwork I've let pile up. You might regret saying yes. They both laughed, and for the first time in a long while, Rosa felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. They talked for another few minutes, Henry explaining that she could start on Monday, that he'd have everything ready for her. He wrote down his phone number on a napkin and told her to call if she had any questions. When Rosa stood up to go back to work, Henry stood too, slower but steady. One more thing, Rosa, he said as they walked to the door. Don't tell people about my money. Let them think what they want to think. I like my privacy. I won't say anything, I promise. Good girl. I'll see you Monday morning, 9 o'clock. The farm's at 2847 County Road 12. You can't miss it. Rosa walked back to the grocery store in a daze. Had that really just happened? Had she really just gotten a job offer from one of the richest men in town? It felt like a dream. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. She kept touching the napkin in her pocket with Henry's phone number on it, making sure it was real. When her shift ended at noon, she practically ran home, eager to tell her mom the news. Her mom was in the kitchen when Rosa burst through the door, making herself lunch. Mija, what's wrong? Why are you home so early? Mom, you're not going to believe what just happened, Rosa said, breathless and smiling. Remember I told you about helping that old man cross the street? Well, he found me at work today, and Mom, he's rich, really rich. He owns Cooper Farms, and he offered me a job. A real job with real pay, and I can work around my school schedule. And Mom, this is going to change everything. The words tumbled out of Rosa in a rush, and her mom stood there, spatula in hand, staring at her daughter with wide eyes. Slow down, her mom said. Start from the beginning. So Rosa told her everything. About the coffee shop, about Henry's story, about the job offer. Her mom listened carefully, and when Rosa finished, her expression was a mixture of joy and concern. Are you sure about this, Mija? Are you sure this man is safe? Mom, I know it sounds crazy, but yes, he's genuine. I can feel it. He's just a lonely old man who wants to help someone. Please, Mom, this could be our chance. Her mom was quiet. For a long moment, then she smiled, tears gathering in her eyes. Okay, if you trust him, then I trust your judgment. Oh, Rosa, maybe things are finally going to get better for us. They hugged in the middle of the kitchen, both of them crying happy tears. Rosa couldn't remember the last time she'd felt this light, this hopeful. It was like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. That night, Rosa lay in bed, unable to sleep from excitement. She thought about Monday, about her first day at Cooper Farms. She thought about Henry and his kind eyes. She thought about how one small act of kindness had somehow led to this moment. Maybe her mom was right. Maybe things were finally going to get better. And as Rosa drifted off to sleep, she smiled, feeling grateful for whatever twist of fate had brought Henry Cooper into her life. Monday morning arrived with a mixture of excitement and nerves that made Rosa's stomach flutter. She'd barely slept the night before, tossing and turning as she thought about her first day at Cooper Farms. She'd spent the weekend telling Mr. Morrison and Mr. Pete that she'd have to cut back her hours, and surprisingly, both of them had been understanding. Mr. Morrison had even seemed happy for her. Rosa stood in front of her small closet trying to figure out what to wear. She didn't have much. Most of her clothes were old, hand-me-downs, or things she'd bought at thrift stores. Finally, she settled on her best pair of jeans, the ones without any holes, and a simple blue blouse her mom had given her for her birthday last year. You look beautiful, Mija, her mom said from the doorway, leaning on her cane. I'm so nervous, Mom. What if I mess up? What if he realizes he made a mistake hiring me? Her mom walked over slowly and placed her hands on Rosa's shoulders. Listen to me. That man didn't offer you this job because he felt sorry for you. He offered it because he saw something special in you. You're smart, you're hardworking, and you're kind. Don't doubt yourself. Rosa hugged her mom tight. Thank you. I love you. I love you too. Now go. Don't be late on your first day. The bus ride to County Road 12 took 40 minutes. Rosa had looked up the route the night before, making sure she knew exactly which bus to take and where to get off. As the bus drove further from town, the houses became fewer and the fields became wider. This was farm country, where the land stretched out in every direction, green and golden under the morning sun. When Rosa finally got off at her stop, she could see the entrance to Cooper Farms in the distance. A weathered wooden sign marked the E driveway, and as she walked closer, she couldn't believe what she was seeing. The property was massive. Fields of crops stretched as far as she could see. There were several large barns, various pieces of farming equipment, and right in the middle of it all, a beautiful old farmhouse with a wraparound porch. Rosa walked up the long driveway, her heart pounding. A few workers were already out in the fields, and they waved at her as she passed. She waved back, feeling like she'd stepped into a completely different world. Henry was sitting on the porch in a rocking chair when Rosa reached the house. He stood up when he saw her, that familiar warm smile on his face. "Right on time," he said. "I like that. Come on in, let me show you around." The inside of the farmhouse was nothing like Rosa expected. She'd imagined something old and dusty, maybe cluttered with farm equipment. Instead, it was cozy and well-maintained. The furniture was simple but comfortable. Photos lined the walls, pictures of the farm through the years, and one large portrait of a beautiful woman with kind eyes. "That's my wife, Helen," Henry said, noticing Rosa looking at the photo. "She passed 15 years ago, but I still feel her presence here every day." "She was beautiful," Rosa said softly. "She was more than that. She was my best friend, my partner in everything. She helped me build this place into what it is today. I miss her every single day." There was such sadness in his voice that Rosa felt tears prick her eyes. She understood loss, even if her situation was different. Henry cleared his throat and smiled again. "Come on, let me show you where you'll be working." He led her to a small office off the main hallway. It had a desk, a computer, a filing cabinet, and a large window that looked out over the fields. It was simple but perfect. "This was Helen's office," Henry explained. "She handled all the administrative work for the farm. After she died, I tried to keep up with it, but—" He gestured to the stacks of papers covering every surface. "As you can see, I'm not very good at paperwork." Rosa looked at the mess and felt a little overwhelmed, but also excited. This was something she could handle. This was something she could fix. "The phone rings a lot," Henry continued. "Suppliers, buyers, the workers calling in. Sometimes I get calls from the county about permits and regulations. The filing system is— well, there isn't really a system anymore. Helen had one, but I lost track of it. And the computer has all our records, but I barely know how to turn it on." "I can do this," Rosa said, more to herself than to Henry. "I can organize this." Henry patted her shoulder. "I know you can. Take your time. Figure out what works for you. I'm not expecting miracles. Just do your best, and that'll be more than enough." He showed her how to answer the phone, where the important files were supposed to be, and gave her the password to the computer. Then he left her alone to get started, saying he had to go check on the workers in the north field. Rosa stood in the middle of the office, looking at the chaos around her. Then she took a deep breath, rolled up her sleeves, and got to work. She started with the desk, sorting papers into piles. Bills in one stack, orders in another, correspondence in a third. Some of the papers were months old, and Rosa wondered how Henry had managed to keep the farm running with such disorganization. But as she worked, she began to understand the system Helen must have used. There were labels on the filing cabinet drawers, and once Rosa started matching papers to categories, things began to make sense. The phone rang 3 times that morning. The first call was from a supplier asking about a payment. Rosa took careful notes and promised to call back. The second was from a grocery store chain wanting to place an order for tomatoes. Rosa wrote down all the details, her hand cramping from writing so fast. The third was a wrong number. By lunchtime, the desk was clear, and Rosa had created a basic filing system. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Henry came back around noon with sandwiches and lemonade. "How's it going?" he asked, settling into a chair across from the desk. "Good, I think. I've been organizing and answering calls. Someone named Mr. Peterson called about a late payment. Do you know who that is? Henry's eyes widened. Peterson! I completely forgot about that invoice. It's been sitting here for 2 months. See, this is exactly why I needed help. They ate lunch together and Henry told her about the farm, how his grandfather had started with just 50 acres and a dream, how his father had expanded it, how he and Helen had modernized everything, bringing in new crops and new techniques. He talked about the workers, many of whom had been with him for decades. He talked about the rhythm of farm life, the planting and harvesting, the way everything depended on weather and timing and luck. Rosa listened, fascinated. She'd lived in this town her whole life, but had never really understood what farming was like. Henry made it sound like poetry, like there was something beautiful about working with the land. You really love this place, Rosa said. It's my life, Henry replied simply. Some people might think it's just dirt and plants, but to me it's everything. It's legacy. It's purpose. It's home. After lunch, Rosa returned to work. She tackled the filing cabinet next, discovering documents that went back years, old contracts, receipts, correspondence. She created folders and labels, slowly bringing order to the chaos. The computer was next. Rosa had learned basic computer skills at school, and though Henry's system was old, she figured it out. She found spreadsheets for tracking expenses and income, lists of clients and suppliers, and records of every harvest for the past decade. The afternoon flew by. Before Rosa knew it, it was 5 o'clock. Henry appeared in the doorway looking impressed. Look at this place, he said, walking around the office. I can actually see the desk now. Rosa, you've done more in 1 day than I've done in 6 months. Rosa felt pride swell in her chest. There's still a lot to do, but I think I'm getting the hang of it. You're a natural. Helen would have liked you. He pulled out his wallet and counted out several bills. Here's your pay for today. 3 hours would have been enough for a first day, but you stayed for 8. That's $120. Rosa stared at the money in her hand. $120 for 1 day of work. She'd never earned that much in a single day in her life. Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rosa. You're helping me more than you know. Same time tomorrow? I'll be here. The bus ride home felt different than the morning ride. Rosa felt accomplished, useful, like she was finally doing something meaningful. When she walked through the apartment door, her mom was waiting anxiously. How was it? Tell me everything. Rosa told her about the farmhouse, the office, the work she'd done. She showed her mom the money and they both got teary-eyed again. We can pay the electric bill, her mom said, her voice shaking, and maybe buy some real groceries this week. That night, they went to the grocery store together. Not Morrison's, where Rosa worked, but the bigger one across town. They walked through the aisles slowly, Rosa pushing the cart while her mom pointed out things they needed. Fresh vegetables, real meat, not the cheap stuff, a gallon of milk, bread, eggs, things they hadn't been able to afford in weeks. At the checkout, Rosa paid with her own money, and the feeling of being able to provide for her mom, of not having to worry about whether they'd have enough, was almost overwhelming. The next few weeks fell into a comfortable routine. Rosa worked at the farm Monday through Friday, 4 hours each day after school. She'd catch the bus out to County Road 12, work in the office until early evening, then take the bus home. She kept her weekend shift at Pete's Diner, more because she liked the work than because she needed the money now. The office slowly transformed. Rosa created a proper filing system, organized all the digital records, and even designed a simple schedule for Henry to keep track of important dates and deadlines. She answered calls professionally, took detailed messages, and even started managing some of the ordering and billing herself. Henry taught her about the farm business, explaining how everything worked. He introduced her to the workers, men and women who'd been farming for decades. They were skeptical at first, this young girl showing up to work in the office. But Rosa was respectful and eager to learn, and gradually they warmed up to her. There was Miguel, the field manager who'd worked for Henry for 30 years. There was Grace, who managed the greenhouse operation. There was Tommy, barely older than Rosa, who handled the machinery maintenance. They all had stories, lives, families. They all depended on the farm for their livelihood. And Rosa began to understand the weight of responsibility Henry carried. One afternoon, about a month into her new job, Rosa was updating the financial spreadsheets when she noticed something concerning. The farm's expenses had been rising steadily, but income had stayed flat. If the trend continued, they'd be in trouble by next year. She printed out the reports and brought them to Henry, who was in the kitchen making coffee. "Mr. Cooper, can I show you something?" Henry looked at the papers, his expression growing serious. "I knew things were tight, but I didn't realize it was this bad. Maybe we could cut costs somewhere? Or find new buyers who'll pay more?" Henry smiled sadly. "You've got a good head for this, Rosa, better than mine. The problem is I've been running this farm the same way for 40 years. Maybe it's time to try something new." They spent the next hour brainstorming ideas. Rosa suggested reaching out to restaurants directly instead of going through distributors. She proposed starting a small farm stand on the property to sell directly to locals. She even mentioned something she'd read about online, how some farms were doing subscription boxes delivering fresh produce to people's homes weekly. Henry listened to every idea, nodding thoughtfully. "You know what, Rosa? You might be onto something.
Helen always said I was too stuck in my ways."
Maybe I need to listen to the younger generation. I can research it more, make some calls, see what's possible. I'd appreciate that. You're not just helping me with paperwork anymore. You're helping me save this farm." As Rosa rode the bus home that evening, she realized something had shifted. This wasn't just a job anymore. She cared about Cooper Farms. She cared about Henry and the workers and the legacy that had been built over generations. She wanted to help make it succeed. When she got home, her mom was standing in the kitchen without her cane. She was moving slowly, carefully, but she was standing on her own. "Mom, you're not using your cane." Her mom's eyes shone with tears. "I started physical therapy last week, remember? We could finally afford it with your new job. The therapist says I'm already improving." "Oh, Mija, things are really getting better." Rosa hugged her mom, and in that moment she understood what Henry had meant about legacy and purpose. She was making a real difference, not just for herself, but for her mom and for Henry, and for everyone at the farm. That simple act of helping an old man cross the street had started a chain reaction she never could have imagined. And this, Rosa knew, was only the beginning. 3 months had passed since Rosa started working at Cooper Farms, and the change in her life was almost unbelievable. The apartment felt different now. There was food in the refrigerator, real food that didn't come from the discount bin. Her mom's physical therapy was going well, and she could walk around the apartment without her cane most days. Rosa had even bought herself new sneakers, proper ones without any tape. But with the good changes came new challenges. The farm stand idea Rosa had suggested was now a reality, and it was busier than anyone expected. Every Saturday morning, locals would drive out to Cooper Farms to buy fresh produce directly. Rosa had created signs, set up a simple payment system, and even convinced Henry to let her start a social media page for the farm. The problem was, not everyone in town was happy about Rosa's success. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Rosa first encountered real trouble. She was at Pete's diner for her Saturday shift when 3 girls from her school walked in: Vanessa, Crystal, and Jade. They were the popular girls, the ones who wore designer clothes and drove new cars their parents bought them. They'd never spoken to Rosa before, had barely acknowledged her existence. They sat in Rosa's section, whispering and giggling as she approached their table. "Hi, welcome to Pete's. What can I get you?" Rosa said with her usual smile. Vanessa looked up, her expression cold. "Oh, look who it is. The charity case who got lucky." Rosa felt her smile falter. "Excuse me? We heard all about you," Crystal chimed in. "How you helped some old man and now you're working at his farm. Must be nice getting handouts." "It's not a handout," Rosa said quietly, trying to keep her voice steady. "I work for my pay," Jade laughed. "Sure you do. Everyone knows Henry Cooper felt sorry for you. Poor little Rosa with her sick mom and her pathetic life. He probably hired you out of pity." The words stung more than Rosa wanted to admit. She'd wondered the same thing herself sometimes late at night when doubt crept in. Had Henry only hired her because he felt sorry for her? "Are you going to order something or not?" Rosa asked, her hands trembling slightly. "Yeah, we'll have 3 waters," Vanessa said with a smirk. "That's all poor people can afford to serve, right?" Rosa brought them their waters and tried to focus on her other tables, but she could hear them laughing throughout their entire visit. When they finally left, they didn't leave a tip, just a napkin with "Get a Real Job" written on it. Rosa threw the napkin away and finished her shift, but the words stayed with her. That night she lay in bed thinking about what they'd said. Was she a charity case? Did people around town think Henry was just being nice to her out of pity? The next day at the farm, Rosa was quieter than usual. Henry noticed immediately. "Something bothering you?" he asked during their lunch break. Rosa hesitated, then decided to be honest. "Mr. Cooper, can I ask you something? And I need you to tell me the truth." "Of course." "Did you hire me because you felt sorry for me? Because of my situation?" Henry set down his sandwich and looked at her seriously. "Do you want the complete truth?" Rosa's heart sank. "Yes. When I first met you, yes, I felt sympathy for your situation. But Rosa, sympathy isn't why I hired you. I hired you because in those 5 minutes helping me cross the street, you showed me more character than most people show in a lifetime. And everything you've done since then has proven I made the right choice." He gestured around the office, which was now completely organized. "Look at what you've accomplished. The farm stand was your idea, and it's bringing in extra income we desperately needed. You redesigned our billing system and we're actually getting paid on time now. You've helped me understand technology I'd given up on. That's not charity, Rosa. That's you earning every penny I pay you." "Some girls at school said I was a charity case," Rosa admitted. "That you only hired me because you felt sorry for me." Henry's expression hardened. "People who've never struggled a day in their lives love to judge those who have. Don't let them get in your head. You know what you're worth." "I know what you're worth. That's all that matters." Rosa felt better after talking to Henry, but the encounter at the diner had shaken her confidence. The next few weeks were harder than she expected. Word had spread around school that Rosa was working for Henry Cooper, and suddenly everyone had an opinion about it. Some people were supportive, like her friend Lisa from math class, who thought it was amazing. But others, like Vanessa and her group, made snide comments whenever they saw Rosa in the hallways. "Teacher's pet. Charity worker. Probably doesn't even do real work." Rosa tried to ignore them, but it wasn't easy. She'd never been popular, had never really cared about fitting in before. But now that people were paying attention to her, even negative attention, it hurt more than she expected. Things got worse when the local newspaper ran a story about Cooper Farms' revival. The reporter had interviewed Henry, who'd mentioned Rosa and all her contributions. The article talked about how a local high school student had helped bring new life to the historic farm. It was meant to be positive, a feel-good story about the community. Instead, it made things worse at school. "Nice article," Vanessa said loudly in the cafeteria the day after it was published. "Must be nice getting your name in the paper for doing nothing." "Leave her alone, Vanessa," Lisa said, but Vanessa just laughed. "Why?" "It's true. She's using that old man for money and attention. It's pathetic." Rosa felt her face flush with anger and embarrassment. She wanted to defend herself, to tell them they were wrong, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she grabbed her lunch and left the cafeteria, Lisa following behind her. "Don't listen to them," Lisa said when they were alone in the hallway. "They're just jealous." "Jealous of what?" "My life has been a struggle since forever." "What's there to be jealous of? Are you kidding?" "Rosa, you're actually doing something meaningful. You're helping your family. You're learning real business skills. You're making a difference. All they do is shop and post selfies online. They know you're doing something real and they can't stand it." Rosa wanted to believe her friend, but doubt gnawed at her. That weekend at the farm stand, she was distracted and made several mistakes with the cash register. Henry noticed but didn't say anything until they were cleaning up at the end of the day. "Talk to me," he said gently. "What's going on?" Rosa finally broke down and told him everything. About the comments at school, about feeling like maybe she didn't deserve this opportunity, about wondering if she was really making a difference or just playing at being important. Henry listened patiently, then sat down on one of the crates and motioned for Rosa to sit beside him. "Let me tell you a story," he said. "When I was about your age, my father died unexpectedly. Heart attack. I was 17, just like you, and suddenly I was responsible for this entire farm. People said I was too young, that I'd fail, that I should sell the land and do something else with my life. The other farmers around here made bets on how long I'd last." "What did you do?" Rosa asked. "I proved them wrong. I worked harder than I'd ever worked in my life. I made mistakes, lots of them, but I learned from every single one, and slowly the farm not only survived, it thrived. The same people who said I'd fail eventually came asking for advice." He looked at Rosa with those kind, weathered eyes. "You know what I learned? People will always have opinions. They'll judge you, criticize you, especially when you're trying to do something different. But their opinions don't define you. Your actions do. Your character does, but what if they're right? What if I'm not good enough? Rosa, let me ask you something. Has your work here been valuable? I think so. No, don't think so. No, so your work has saved this farm money. Your ideas have brought in new income. Your organization has made everything run smoother. Those are facts, not opinions. Now, does it matter what some spoiled kids at your school think? Rosa smiled despite herself. When you put it that way, no. Exactly. Keep your head up. Keep doing good work. The people who matter will see your value. The people who don't, well, they don't matter. The conversation with Henry helped, but the real turning point came a week later. Rosa was walking home from the bus stop when she saw an elderly woman struggling with her grocery bags. The woman had dropped one bag and cans were rolling across the sidewalk. Without thinking, Rosa rushed over to help. Here, let me get those for you. Oh, thank you, dear, the woman said gratefully. These old hands don't grip like they used to. Rosa gathered the cans and picked up both bags. Where are you headed? I can carry these for you. Just 2 blocks down. You're very kind. As they walked, the woman introduced herself as Mrs. Chen. She'd lived in town for 50 years, ran a small alteration shop downtown. They chatted pleasantly, and when they reached her house, Mrs. Chen insisted on giving Rosa some cookies she'd baked that morning. You know, Mrs. Chen said as Rosa was leaving, you remind me of someone. There was a girl who helped my husband cross a busy street a few months ago. He has trouble with his legs, and she was so patient with him. Didn't rush him at all. He came home talking about how there were still kind young people in the world. Rosa felt warmth spread through her chest. That's nice. It is. In a world where everyone's always in a hurry, always looking at their phones, it's nice to know some young people still care about others. Keep being kind, dear. The world needs more of it. Walking the rest of the way home, Rosa realized something important. She'd helped Mrs. Chen the same way she'd helped Henry, without thinking about it, without expecting anything in return. That was who she was. Not because anyone was watching, not because she'd get something out of it, but because it was the right thing to do. The girls at school, their opinions, their cruelty, none of that changed who Rosa was at her core. And if they couldn't see that, if they wanted to believe she was using Henry or didn't deserve her job, that was their problem, not hers. That night, Rosa told her mom about Mrs. Chen and about the realization she'd had. You're growing up, mija, her mom said, tears in her eyes. Not just getting older, but really growing. I'm so proud of you. The next day at school, when Vanessa made another snide comment, Rosa just smiled and walked past. She didn't need to defend herself. She knew her worth. She knew the value of her work. And she knew that no amount of negativity from others could take away the good she was doing. At the farm that afternoon, Henry had a surprise waiting for her. I've been thinking, he said. You've been doing such great work here, and you've got a real head for business. How would you feel about taking on more responsibility? Maybe managing the farm stand full-time? Hiring a couple of part-timers to help you? Rosa's eyes widened. You'd trust me with that? Rosa, I'd trust you with a lot more than that. You've earned it. What do you say? Yes, Rosa said without hesitation. Absolutely yes. As she sat at her desk that evening, updating the farm's social media with photos from the day, Rosa felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Not just hope, but confidence. She was building something real, something meaningful, and no one could take that away from her. The challenges weren't over. Rosa knew that. There would be more difficulties, more people who doubted her, more obstacles to overcome. But she was ready for them now. She understood that her worth wasn't determined by other people's opinions. It was determined by her actions, her character, and the positive impact she had on the people around her.